It's live. All right. So today I've got an absolute creative powerhouse joining us, an illustrator, a designer, and a creative director who's been shaping the music scene for almost 2 decades. Michael Shantz. Right now, he's here to take us off planet, diving into all things aliens, cosmic inspiration, extraterrestrial vibes, and what might be lurking in the cosmos. Michael, welcome to the cosmos. Welcome to the Hellmouth. I almost got it though. Fucking up.
Yeah. That was perfect.
Thanks,
that was
man.
Good.
Yeah.
Damn.
So, dude, like,
I feel so much cooler than I really am.
I think as like, like we both came up, well, you before me, in like the illustrator, like teas and all that stuff. And like you got with,
Yeah.
Was it Drop Dead? Yeah, it was Drop Dead that like, I feel like that's when you kind of like shot up in everybody's like view.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah.
What's weird about that too is that was like no joke the start of me doing what I do. Like I had like day jobs. I worked this like there was a store. Actually, I think it was all over the world at one point, but it's known more here. It was called Bang On, and you basically it was like a store, and you'd go in. There was all blank shirts, and there was like binders of like pre-done designs and fonts, and you could basically make your own shirt. So that was like my first job where I got to draw. But it was only like a year, and then I got fired for doing too good of a job. No joke. And then I was like, I don't want day jobs anymore. Within, I'd say it was less than a year after that point, Ollie from Bring Me the Horizon messaged me and was like, hey, I saw you did shirts for the Red Shore, which was a death metal band from Australia that they were touring with. And he's like, do you want to work for my clothing brand? And I was a big fan of Bring Me the Horizon, so I was like, yeah. And then within another year after that point, he moved me there. It all went horribly wrong, and here I am.
You actually like lived over in the UK? Or no, Australia,
I live
sorry.
No, in the UK. So
UK,
yeah, the Red Shore was the band that he toured with. They were Australia. He was in Sheffield. And so yeah, he moved me over, and I lived at his mom and dad's for a hot minute because he was still on tour. So I lived in Ollie's old bedroom. Fangirls were like, oh my God, freaking out. And then his mom found me a place in the same building Ollie was living in, and like so nice, like ridiculous, like 300-year-old grain warehouse that was turned into like epic lofts, and I had like original like 100-plus-year-old wood beams going through and old style, like it was ridiculous. But yeah, but I won't get into all that. But it went horribly wrong, except for me doing my job, Yeah, that.
So with that, like I do want to touch on it because I think that's still, that's incredible. Like, how old were you around when that happened? Like, still.
Yeah, when would that would have been 2000, 2009, 2010.
Yeah, so I feel like
I would have been early 20s, I guess. I don't know, I can't do math.
Somebody fly you over to another country to design merch. All I can think of is was the imposter syndrome so like heavy on you? Because if it was me, I'd be like, dude, I don't belong here. I'm fucking like, I draw weird shit on my, like, that's it,
multiple times. Because like not only that, but like I remember at the time the the social media of the day at that point was still MySpace. And when you'd go to MySpace and you'd have your little login, and then there'd be always two stories, and one was usually a band and one was something else. So for like a year on, I think it was just MySpace UK, there was a story about me, like right at the same time of me moving there. So not only was I already like, I'm just this weird dude from Canada that wears Ren and Stimpy shirts, and like I'm a butt. And now I'm getting flown over. I'm living in this like expensive loft. UFOs. Yeah. I got like expensive loft, and then like on MySpace, which was like crazy for me. But then it kind of all, without like trying to badmouth them at all, it was early years for them too. So like Ollie was on tour a lot. His mom basically ran it. Most of the people that worked there were his like cousins, his brother, and they were all great. Like I look back now, all these years later, a lot of it I kind of try to forget, but for the most part, his parents especially were wonderful to me. Like I went drinking with his dad on a regular basis, just me and him, just get plastered. I remember like doing family dinners at his mom and dad's place when he was on tour with like his grandma even, like, and I was like cooking dinner, and like, so it was like there was some good stuff. But the part where I thought like I'm gonna, kind of be welcomed into this family, that didn't really happen. I think there was just some ego involved and some, bits and pieces of that.
Yeah,
But I
I
learned
think
a lot, which was
there's like so many like moving parts and something like that that like
like, yeah,
you know I don't know. So I can understand things getting
yeah,
crazy and all that shit.
yeah,
So we don't have to dive more into that stuff. But the only thing that I was trying to think is like, did you? I know on MySpace because that's kind of when I hit with t-shirts and everything too.
yeah,
All these messages of people like daily being like, yo, like I was in the band thinking like I'm some rock star. I had people at like movie theaters coming up to me, like I'm sure you got some of that shit too, and just being like, oh yeah, Josh, you do this, and I was like, I just did the album art, dude. Like I talked to the
yeah,
manager.
yeah,
I don't even know who this band
yeah,
is. So
yeah,
like I locked
exactly.
down everything, was like, I'm from Australia because I don't know, I just don't like I like attention on me to be from my work, not me, which is like I'm talking
Yeah,
about
that's
video
fair.
it's I don't know, whatever. It's like a balancing act, right? So like
Oh yeah,
I bet that was crazy for you because you seemed like it was more like kind of like outlandish, bigger than life figure on the internet.
yeah. It
Yeah.
was bizarre. It was crazy too how long it lasted for. I mean, I still now it's like a little less because I'm not quite my face isn't out there very much. Like
Mhm.
my Instagram, I really don't like in my stories maybe I'll post me, but like the majority of my posts aren't me, it's just my work. I don't even post very much now that I have like a full-time job because I don't really have to be on all the time like searching for stuff. I have
Yeah,
like,
the hustle
you know,
is quieted
there's
down, yeah.
always work to do now, which is great. Going from free like 12 plus years of freelance basically between Drop Dead and Full
Mhm.
Airs, which is where I work now. It was like 99% of the time was looking for work and 1% to, 5% maybe was doing the work. Now I'm back to it's 100% just doing the work.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Plus
That's
it's
like
all, but yeah, but to answer what you said though, yeah, it's like I remember like when I lived there was there's times too where it's like I'd just be like down in Camden Market going for lunch or going to look at goth stores. Canada, we didn't have goth
yep,
stores, and I was
yep.
like, it's just rad. And I'd get like people drive by and be like, because I wasn't Grimjob then, I was just Michael Shantz. So I'd be like, "Shantz," like out the window, or like kids would come up, and like I'm actually still friends. There was this really young kid, he was maybe 12, and I think this might have been like, because I ended up moving back to England. I moved back home, and I think about a year went by, and I moved back and I tried to live in London. Way too expensive.
Yeah.
And so the way I would like, but I got really lucky, long story short, was seeing a girl, didn't go well. The guy she was living with was rich, or his parents were, and they were art collectors. So she's moving out, and he takes me aside and basically goes, listen, you want to live here for free? And I was like, what do I got to do? And he's like, my mom and dad like love art. I showed them your stuff. Basically, like if you just do a couple paintings, you can just live here. And so I did a whole bunch of paintings. The next day I showed up. I went like, for lunch or whatever. Came back home and there was like canvases everywhere and like all my paint supplies, everything. And I was like, okay. But
Yeah.
still, even with that, it was too expensive to live in London.
Oh.
Like just taking the tube downtown. But when I moved, I remember when I lived there for about a year, anytime I was down in Camden, I was getting recognized more so than when I had lived in Sheffield. And it was a trip, yeah. Exactly like you said. It was like I just draw. Like
Yeah.
I draw dumb stuff and he pays to like put it on the shirt. Like, yeah. So yeah,
And it's
it's still weird when it happens.
yeah. And I try to
It's a little
take
more
that
enjoyable.
same attitude with like tattooing too, where like because I know in tattooing like a lot of people can get like that like ego shit and all that stuff, but I'm just like, dude,
Yeah,
I draw pictures on people. It's not that serious. And like
exactly.
and there's a whole nother level which I've been like starting like I'm 10 years into tattooing now, and like there's a whole nother level of like it's not just about the art, it's about like the time with somebody and like the the energy that you're there with. And I was like, okay, this is more intense than I ever thought of. And it's like, oh yeah, now like I know what like the old guys are talking about, kind of deal, a little
Yeah,
bit.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
like you're like, dude, just drawing, it's a trip that people will pay us for these things to
Right?
be able to live. It's
Yeah,
feel very
it's
fortunate.
mhm.
So
Yeah, it's always amazing, especially when it's someone. I've only had it a few times where it's like not only a trip that you're just getting paid to draw for someone, but when you like meet someone that you actually like already were a big fan of. I mean, like Drop Dead was kind of like that, but
Mhm.
I met Steve from MSI, Mindless Self Indulgence,
Oh,
at the while I was living there the first time because Ollie was Bring Me the Horizon was playing with MSI and what is that band? I can't think of it. Rad band that I actually like and can't remember from Japan.
yeah. They were with
And
Melt Banana, weren't they?
I think I think Melt Banana was on that one.
I know they toured with them at some point, but who
Uh,
knows?
I love Melt Banana was great.
Yeah, they
But
were.
yeah,
I
so we
remember
went.
having.
Oh, they're so weird. I remember getting my little cousin into them for some reason. I was like, "You're a weird little kid. You'll love this." Yeah. But I remember, yeah, I met Steve at the Kerrang Awards after party where everyone bailed on me and I was standing there just like, mm-hmm, okay. And then I look over and I see Steve and no other members of MSI were around and he looked just miserable. Like he did not want to be there. And so I just walked up to him and I was just like, he's like, hey, like, you hate this? He's like, fucking right. I was like, do you want to, and then he looked at me, he goes, you want to go on the roof and get drunk? I was like, yep. And then we chatted and we stayed in touch for a couple of years. And then I ended up doing the art and all the branding and promo stuff for their side project, the Left Rights, for their second album,
Oh, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, I didn't.
which is so
I had
great
no
because I
idea.
was
Yeah.
such a big fan. And to this day, that's actually one of the coolest ones because the only other two artists that they ever got art by for any of their projects was Johann Vasquez, so
Yep. Yeah.
Invader
Johnny the
Zim,
Homicidal.
Johnny the
Yeah.
Homicidal Maniac, yeah, and wow, can't remember names. Gorillaz artist,
Yeah. I don't know their
yeah,
name either. Yeah. Yeah.
that guy,
Yeah.
yeah. So and then me, and I was just like,
Yeah.
that's like that's still to me, I'm still just like I'm a little speechless on that one. Like me, really?
Yeah. Like,
Like, was it
all right.
circumstance? Did they actually like it? You know, you kind of question a little bit
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah. Are you guys just like hard up? Couldn't find anybody? Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's crazy.
I do.
Life,
So
huh?
when I reached out seeing if anybody had any like paranormal or UFO or anything stories, you chimed up
Oh,
and you said you
did
had a
I
little
ever?
something, and then always with the show, never try to get into it beforehand with people because I want to be surprised. I want to be able to like naturally go through the questions and that kind of shit.
Yeah,
So like the last Geraldine St. Joseph, the last guest I had, she told me that she had 50 exorcisms under her belt. Yeah, you should check out that podcast if
what?
you, 50
I'm
exorcisms under
going
her
to.
belt. She remembers all of her past lives. She remembers being in a spaceship, coming around the moon, coming to seed planet Earth, and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, maybe? Cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
maybe.
I'm 50
Like
50
either
on like
way.
everything. Yeah. Yeah. So it was
Yeah.
wild. So yeah, it was just
Holy.
great to like naturally go into that. So like you said that you have some possible like alien stuff or UFO stuff. Hit me
I do.
with it.
I mean, I'll go from, least crazy to
You?
the final one.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I can't remember how young I was, but I remember definitely seeing UFOs. I remember me and my brother more than a few times seeing what we like. It was a little obvious that it was a cloaked UFO. Like we were looking up and like, I remember going out in my backyard and I'm looking up at this cloud and I'm just like, I remember even saying out loud, like I was looking up and I'm just like, nice try. And then my
Yeah.
brother was in the barn building something, probably welding bikes together. And I was like, Jeremy, get out here. And he comes out and I'm standing there and I go, CFO, right? And he goes, yeah. And just walks right back to the barn. Like he
Okay.
just was
Yeah.
like, yep. And then can't remember if I ever saw any other ones before, but yeah, a lot of UFOs. I remember I traced one. I could see it from my window when I lived in Montreal. And so I set up a little digital at the time, but it was like this weird little digital that still, or no, it didn't even do time lapse. I actually had to go up and click
Yeah.
it every
Yeah.
like half hour. And then I put them all together on like an animated GIF thing so I could see what it was doing. And I could see it was like moving
Like
all through
wild
the
patterns. Yeah.
yeah, but like around buildings in the city and stuff even. And I
Damn.
was like, okay, that's yeah. But then the one, as far as aliens went, what I don't know how I must have been like I think it was like early mid 20s. And I hadn't been drinking. I hadn't been doing any drugs.
Always
It
prefaced.
was
Always prefaced. Yeah.
yep. It was like a total normal. I think it was on my birthday, and I was back at my mom's visiting, and it was like just before dusk, and I remember her being like, "Hey, it's garbage night. You got to take the garbage out." And I'm like, oh, "Okay, fine, grab the garbage." And when you're at my mom's, you go out this like side door and it goes down the stairs, and then it turns and goes down into like open carport, and then it's like the driveway goes down to the road. And if you forget to turn the lights on, the only light that comes on is, oh no, none of them come on. So I forgot to turn them on,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of looking, and it's like just, just dusk, after dusk, I guess. And so it was like light enough I could see, and I'm like trying to figure out if I need to like go back inside. And at the time we had two tenants or two girls that lived in our basement suite. And I remember one of their boyfriends was this big tall guy. So I kind of looked down under the stairs to see, and I was like, oh, and this like tall guy walked by, and I was like, oh, it's probably the boyfriend, whatever. And I was like, I'm just gonna go walk. I'll see better once I'm in the dark. And so I walk out, and like if someone's walking up behind you, you get that sense that they're
Hmm.
there. And like to be fair, like I've tested this out a bunch of times. Like I've gotten like a friend to like write or like draw a symbol on a piece of paper and hold it like out there and see like how, like I don't even have to turn my head. Like I can look about here and I can see pretty clearly.
Yeah, hold on. Let me. Yeah,
Right? Like you
right about there is.
barely really
Yeah,
have,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. And if you
yeah.
turn even just that little bit, like you've got a pretty decent view of what's there. So I'm walking out and I go through the carport and I get about 10 feet out into the driveway and I feel that there's something like right behind me. And I turn, and I think I probably turned just enough, and it was kind of what we'd expect, like a gray, with the bigger head. The eyes were a lot bigger and a lot more like domed than I
Okay.
expected. Very mirrored chrome, like so mirrored, because I remember I looked kind of back for a second and I could, those like big mirrors that you see like outside of like parking lots and shit,
Yeah.
where like you go stand and like you look really little. It's like very like fisheye.
Yeah.
So it was like that, but I could see the back of me in
Yeah.
his
Okay.
eye. And it was kind of like rainbow, like when you have like gas in a puddle.
Hmm.
And he was like, everything else was typical. It was like kind of gray, darker gray, thin, way taller though than I thought. And I look and I'm like, yeah, I could see like the reflection of me. And as I turn to look like right at him, see and hear this little in front of me, and this little green light just goes in front of me. And I turn and I look at that, and then I turn and he's gone. And I remember my only thought was, and
Yeah.
I tossed the garbage bag in the air and kicked it across the driveway.
Oh my
And I was
God.
like, it's my birthday. You couldn't even say hi. And I was so mad. I was just so annoyed and pissed off. And I was just like, this is horse shit.
Oh my
Like,
God.
bro, you were right there.
Right there.
Like, like right there. Come on. Like, oh,
So
yeah.
I got questions and stuff, but so let's back it up a little bit. Like when you, because I feel like maybe a lot of times with experiencers, and I've never seen anything, even though like I'm out there all the time. I'm like, I've never seen ghosts, never seen anything. I guess my the owner of the shop, she's just like, you want it too bad, you're never gonna get it. And anyway,
Yeah.
so when you saw like that one in cloak, like the one that was in disguise, and then you saw like that
Oh,
one
yeah.
going through, like what did you kind of feel about that? Because I know, like they say with experiencers, they like since um they see it all the time, they always feel like this is what's coming. Like maybe they're gonna get taken, maybe something like that. But like, did you ever be like, what the fuck am I seeing? Why me? Kind of deal, or did you? Or I think when if you go back and like
Yeah.
some people who've seen like ghosts and they're like, I touched the hand of this little girl ghost, and I was like, all right, when that happened and you knew 100% certainty that there was a
Mhm.
spirit realm, like how did you feel? So like
Yeah.
in that same instance, I know like it's objects, but like you're like, dude, like I know what I'm seeing. This right here. Is it like did you have like a weird like existential thing? Was it just like, oh, that's kind of cool, or like what did you feel about it?
With aliens, no. I have like ghost and that other side of it. With that stuff, yes. With ghosts or with aliens, no. With aliens, it's like I had not really done research, but I had like read up and heard stories and talked. I always liked
Hmm.
alien. And to me, there was never a question if, like, you look, like, the universe is
Yeah.
infinite. Of course, there's something out there. If there isn't, we're definitely in the Matrix. You know, like, come on. So for that, like, no, like, I mean, that I got my first reaction was I was upset that the alien didn't say hi, basically.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
I saw the UFOs and, like, yeah, the one was cloaked, the one was from far away. So I never got to really see one where I was like looking at a UFO. You know what I mean? Like, where I'm like,
Yeah.
that is, like, I could look at those and be like, oh yeah, that was a UFO. You know, it moved around sporadically. That wasn't the, you know, it was within the city. Like, it was a small little craft, like, but it was still like on a shitty uh old camera. And the other
Yeah.
one was like cloaked in a cloud. I imagine if I, like, was in a clearing in the forest and the light came down and it was, I'm
Yeah.
standing in
Yeah.
the moss and I'm like, ah, and the
Yeah. Yeah.
door opened. I might
Have some
flip my
kind of
shit.
like, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like,
But
I don't,
otherwise, I was just like, yeah, it's UFOs, of course.
yeah. So when an actual being like came and visited you, like I guess I'd be pissed too because I'd be like, dude, this is probably never gonna fucking happen again. Why were you here for
Exactly.
like an eighth of a second? And what? And like, and you're like, okay, hey, like, like a distract a cat with a like laser and then just go away, right? So like, yeah, you could feel something. Did you feel like cold, hot, anything, like any other factors that were, I think, smell weird?
Weirdly, now that you got me thinking about it again more, the only theory, yeah, so I know I didn't smell, see anything. I mean, the green little blip, everything else seemed like totally a normal day. Nothing else. But the only theory I had as far as that and him, like, not saying anything was and there's no real evidence, or, like, I mean, there's never really any someone that
Right, right.
sees an alien or abductions or anything. But the only thing I thought was within that split second, because, all the accounts I had seen of people that got abducted, they don't remember it. They
Yeah.
remember seeing something, blipping out, and then appearing back and feeling. So I'm like, well, maybe in that second, like where I saw the green light, maybe the green light was actually like the blip of me coming back.
Coming back, yeah.
But I never had any other memories. Like, I never had a dream or a memory. Like, I never had something come back where I was like, oh yeah, now I'm remembering things. So I don't think so, but
Yeah.
that was the only other
Maybe
thing where I was like,
maybe when you're like 60 and like sorry, 80 and have a stroke,
yeah,
it'll all
it'll
come
come,
flooding back and you'll
they'll
see
come
like
back.
yeah,
Yeah.
10 of them around you like sawing your arms off or something like
They'll
that.
be like, they'll save me. They're like, it's not your time.
Yeah.
It's still not your time. I'll be like, what do you mean? We've saved you 20 times before. Let's hope. Alien guardian angel. Alien. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. So
I like that idea.
yeah, I wonder, it's just weird to think that like you're taking out the garbage and like who are we to really know the mind of a celestial being, right? So
Yeah,
like with all
right.
these things like abduction, so I'll do a quick, I've got like a story written that I want to do a comic for. It's just like a big story, but anyway, it's like basically abduction stories where these aliens, like the cattle mutilation stuff, so they abduct a cow and they're just like looking for something and then they just like dump it and you're like people are like what the fuck's going on, right? Then people start getting like abducted and then you see the aliens getting closer and closer to what they're looking for, and then in one of them you'll see like, oh, it found whatever it's looking for in like the human psyche, right? But it's looking for a Boltzmann brain, which, like, you know what a Boltzmann brain is? Not. I only asked to be like so I don't like
I think
mansplain it.
so.
Like, be like, hey, well, guess what? It's this. It's basically the if it's more likely that consciousness develops outside of like a body than inside. So somewhere
Okay.
within the infinite universe there is consciousness floating around, right? So I had this idea that like since we're kind of like the universe experiencing itself, we're basically the sensory organs of Boltzmann brains. So I wanted the aliens to be searching for this Boltzmann brain and then they find its location however the fuck, right? They go off to this brain and see maybe interdimensional or something like that. They go off, they find it, and then they hit like a big bang button so it resets the entire universe as like a final act of like defiance or revenge or something, right? But I was like,
Mm,
how am I going to tell this story, right? Kind of deal. So that's what I was thinking, like, who are we to kind of know what a cosmic being wants to do or is doing? So, like, do you have any like? Is there any inkling? Because a lot of times there's also like psychic stuff alongside like the abductions or like visitations and that kind of stuff. Was there ever any like just like any feeling?
That's what I was hoping for.
Nothing. Yeah.
Like, let's be real. Like, that's what I was hoping for. I was like, maybe when that little green blip, I was like, ooh, that's it connecting. Like,
Yeah.
the Bluetooth's like
Yeah.
connecting to my brain here.
Download me.
Nope. But no, it was like nothing. But like as far as the like, like what extraterrestrial would think, or a greater being than ourselves or any of that, it's impossible. Like we can have all kinds of guesses. I mean, I don't remember the full story really, but I think I remember enough of the premise to say it. But the only thing I ever remember reading that really connected on that in that sense, right, was that it was kind of the same question, like, why don't aliens come help us? Why don't aliens, do this? Like we're calling out to them. We're using the radars. We're sending out satellites. We're doing all these things. And then this guy put it in the context of like, yeah, but what if we like go out to the backyard and like a colony of ants is doing all they can to connect to us? Well, it might not be at a level that we know. We
Mm-hmm.
don't know what they're doing. So we're just kind of looking at them like aliens seem to be doing to us, just kind of looking down, going,
Yeah. I'm like,
okay,
oh, cool.
yeah, look at those guys. Look at they built it. It's like us looking at an alien or at a ant colony, being like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, that ant. Look at that. They built a pretty good colony there.
They're pretty
Yeah,
smart, huh? Yeah.
that looks pretty good. It's getting a little close to my house. I think I should probably pour gas in it and light it on fire.
Yeah. Have you seen those
So
where they pour like the lead in so they can like see the
yeah,
colonies? Where I was like,
oh
that's sick,
yeah.
but also Jesus Christ, like how many of them did
Especially
he
when
kill?
they're like, oh, we found this one that's like the size of, the equivalent of like, an entire country of humans. And I'm like, you guys just filled it with liquid aluminum or tin or whatever like you just murdered the whole. Oh, come on, like, yeah, it looks cool, but no
Yeah.
wonder aliens are coming down here.
Yeah. Did you see all that stuff lately of like all the people? I have somebody that's coming on. They're gonna talk about like psionics and like summoning UFOs and all this stuff. Have you seen that stuff that's been going on lately
What is
about
that
like
summoning
there's a whole
UFOs?
yeah. There's like I remember first hearing about it. You know who Stephen Greer is? He's like one of the more outspoken like UFO guys. It was
Hmm.
like
I think so, yeah.
I think he did a podcast with Kim Kardashian, and I was like, this is weird to see this happen, but whatever. But
Yeah.
he takes people out into the desert and he'll like psychically be like do whatever the fuck, right? And then all of a sudden you see like a UFO like zip around, and like I guess it's a real thing, but I don't know how. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think maybe it
Yeah.
might be something else because like plasmoids, like that's been a thing that's been going around lately too. So since I run
Yeah,
the
I've heard
Hellmouth
that.
page like every day, I'm like, what the fuck's this? What the fuck's this? So like
Oh
I'm like
yeah. No
plasmoids, I'll
kidding.
get into this. But like it might be another like just being that lives in our atmosphere and people are like kind of connecting to it that way. And I was like,
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know. So I don't know.
It's hard. It's so
Summoning
hard to.
UFOs is rough for me. It's a hard one.
I mean, the first thing I think of when you said that was like the most logical thing in my brain. I don't know what that says about me. Is that that dude's not a dude. That dude's an alien,
Well,
and he's just. It'd be like if we like had some little creature that came to us and they're like, whoa,
yeah.
like we just dress up like it and we're like, hey, I can summon these humans. Watch this, and we just
Yeah.
like, hey, Josh, do you want to roll up in the car? Yeah, just do. I'm at Walmart. Just do donuts. No, it's enough. This kid's gonna just flip
He
the
fucking
shit out. And it's
loves
like,
it. He loves it.
yeah, it's just an alien, and he's like, come do donuts up with out in the desert, bro. You
Yeah.
know, like that's the only thing that makes sense is he's just calling them up. He knows them. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, come on.
There's so
But
much like
it's interesting. Like, how many do like I remember? What was the guy's? I can't remember the guy's name. But there was like, even at like hearings and stuff where they were like releasing a lot of the files and all the kind of
Stephen
stuff.
Crush.
Yeah, and like, one of the, I mean, facts that's come out,
Yeah.
which we kind of all knew to a point, but there's like a bunch of different species that are on our planet. And like the going thing is that like, there's the grays, there's like, I guess the reptiles are the other one. They're like the
Yeah.
mean, ones that are trying to take shit over. I remember reading this great theory that I kind of liked where it was like grays were just us in the
Hmm.
future coming
Yeah.
back to like help us. But then it's
Micah
like I
Hanks
also
wrote a
love,
book about that. It was good. Yeah.
yeah, right?
Yep.
And then I like, the stuff like the Anunnaki and like but like all the ancient alien stuff is always the stuff that makes so much more sense to me. But and you look at, even the like literally what yesterday they did the scan of the pyramids and I like the idea of like us being reset at a certain point. Like we're like the re-evolved, like where we started from, zero, but like
Yeah,
before we had to start over, there was us, but apparently way smarter,
yeah. Well, because they say
had
like
way more
after
going.
like 10,000 years, like even like the biggest skyscraper is just gone. There's no like evidence of it, kind of deal, especially like modern life. I
Yeah.
remember. I wish I could remember like a 1/10 of the amount of info. Remember when YouTube was a little bit more Wild Westy, and like
Yeah.
everybody
Still
did a
thinking.
fucking documentary about like all this shit. But I remember watching one that had like it laid out 72 different species of aliens that were on this planet, and so and I was like 72. I can name like five, but I went through and I did
Yeah.
all of them. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And I think my favorite one is that the Greys are like automatons for like reptilians or
Oh, I
something like that.
remember. Yes. Yes. I
And it's
remember
like
reading that one.
because they're
That
all
one's
supposed to be
good
like,
though.
yeah, they're like non-emotional and all that kind of stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe, but we're
Yep.
all just doing like alien fanfic anyway. That's
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
That would make sense though, because if that was a gray, that's maybe why it didn't say anything to me. It was just like, I'm just here
yeah.
to look,
Or there was a
just
certain
checking
like
things out.
mineral on the ground that like lit up in their thing. They're just like, oh shit, I gotta go check that out. And
Yeah.
then there's like, who
And I
the
just
fuck is this
walk
guy in the
into,
way?
yeah, he's like human again. Just
Yeah,
do the
god
blip.
damn it.
Boop.
Yep.
All right,
Do the
we're out.
thing.
He'll talk about it on a podcast in 10
Yep.
years. That's
Jesus,
all.
give him a little thrill. Yeah. So you had some like other kind of like stuff in this vein, like some paranormal stuff going on too.
Oh, do I ever? Oh my God. Yeah. Where to start? I mean, okay, so I was always obsessed with ghosts, the paranormal, the afterlife, the possibilities, the classic. When you're, especially when you're you're like preteen. And so, and also we're both from the same generation. We're, preteen, early teens, we're getting into all the horror movies. We're learning about the dangerous bits and pieces. We're fucking around on Ouija boards,
Yeah. No.
being, psychopaths. And so I, as far as I can remember, it was like horror movies and Ouija boards were kind of the first step I had in that direction. But it started, but it started off with a fucking bang. So I would go to my buddy's place. I had like three friends. And this was probably grade seven, grade eight. Oh yeah, because they would have gone to the others. Yeah, so it would have been grade seven. And we'd go to my friend's place, and he had this like weird empty basement. There was like nothing in it. It was just creepy. And he's like, and one of the other friends was like, "Yo, I got this Ouija board, and apparently you can like talk to the dead." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Let's do this." So classic. You're some older guy at school because we didn't have the internet. So it
Yeah.
wasn't like I
I
could
know.
go Google how to use it, but there was the basics we had heard. You'd how to cleanse the board and how to, and so we're doing all the classic and it's hilarious. And we're just like,
Take you
this
all
is
night just to
weird.
Google it if you wanted to do that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, like the modem's going.
Yeah.
And so then we get it. So then we're doing, I think we did a bunch of times where like, is anybody here? Is anybody here? Is there someone in the room? Blah, 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 blah. And we got a yes. And well, of course, first time it does something, you're like, yeah, you're moving it, you're moving
Yeah.
it, you're moving it. And everyone, of course, is like, no, 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 we're not. But I kind of believed it at that point because everyone looked really, really scared, like ready to shit their pants, scared. Like this is the first time we've ever witnessed anything
Hmm.
supernatural. So then I'm the only one that thinks to ask like logical questions. So I'm like, do you know somebody in this room? And they're like, yes. I'm like, okay. Are you related to somebody in this room? Yes. And then my friend goes white, and I'm like, because we all knew his grandma had just passed. And we're like, bro, it could be your grandma. So he
Yeah.
asked a couple questions that we wouldn't know the answer, and as far as I can tell, it was his grandma. I mean, everyone's got Ouija board stories. That's not the part that's made
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
believe. So then we're like, then I realized I'm like, there's nothing in this basement. Like, how do you do something to prove you're here when
Yeah.
there's like an empty room? So I'm like, okay, well, can you move something, do something, make yourself present so we know that you're real? And mind you, we're all kind of cross legged. leaning in, our hands on the, and I'm kind of looking around. I got my hands on it and I'm looking and I don't see anything. And then I kind of look back and I look at my friends and they're all white and look like they'd seen a ghost. And they're looking at me, but like, and I look down and like, just like this, like my shirt's baggy. And there's straight up a handprint, like slowly pushing into my shirt. And I was just like we jumped up and so that's like that's normal. That's where it starts. So then we did it another time and one of the friends was like decided it's like oh, is someone here? Yes. Our friend's in a mood and he just is like fuck you, and I'm like you don't do that,
Yeah, don't
like
be a
don't
romantic
so
kid.
then it starts spelling out fuck you and I'm like it's you, bro, like come on, you're just being a dick, whatever. Then it just keeps spelling fuck you, but it starts spelling it really fast. Then it starts going so fast that we take our hands off and it's still spelling fuck you. And then it stops in the middle of the board and it starts kind of like wiggling
Oh, yeah.
and it levitates up and shoots
Jesus
off and
Christ.
just smokes the wall like really hard, makes this big like, and we're all like, holy fuck, like we're freaking out. And then right as it like hits the wall and we're like freaked and we're like, holy shit, there's just this like on the front door and we're like, and it's like way louder than someone knocking, like freaking us out. And mind you, his front door has two sensor lights. So if someone was standing there knocking on the door, the lights would come on. So we're freaking out. We hide under the table. And then like the light comes on and his dad opens the door and he's like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? So that
Yeah.
one was
I mean,
terrifying.
that's pretty intense, man. Like that's like
Yeah, that one
if
was,
if it stayed there, I'd be like, bravo, that's great.
yeah, right?
And
Oh,
and
yeah.
the only ghost thing I've said it 100 times. The only ghost thing that happened to me was that like I felt like a finger go across like my full back, and I was just like, "This is weird." And then felt my sweatshirt, and it was fine. I was like, "I don't know what that was," and then just was like, I was like, "Well, thank you." And then found out the next day like my neighbor's wife is buried in my backyard, so I was like, maybe.
What?
And then I kept like looking in the windows like every week, being like, "Is she in there? Is she in there?" It's just to see see if we can see
Yeah.
a shadow. Nothing ever came up. But and I've never
Freaked me
felt
out too.
and I've never felt anything else kind of deal. So like it wasn't really definitive. A fucking
Hmm.
planchette floating in the middle of a Ouija board and then flying off is like definitive as
Yeah, man.
fuck. And you're just like, okay, there's a ghost after me for the rest of my life. I'm fucked. Kind of. I'd be like, all
Right?
right, you know,
What's crazy is like I lost touch with the other like three dudes that I would do that like Ouija board with after like probably a year or two after we ended up going to different schools and I haven't talked to literally any of them since. But I'm always like anytime that story comes up, I'm just like, man, it'd be so rad to like get all of them, like even contact each of them
yeah.
on Facebook or something. I literally can't find any of them on Facebook even.
Hmm. Maybe you're next, dude. Watch out.
Maybe I'm next. Or maybe it was me. Maybe it was me from the future. But then yeah, so that one was weird. Then I like kind of stopped because I lost like touch with those guys, so I didn't have people to really Ouija board with, and it never really would work when I would just like sit there on my own. So then for like a bunch of years, I just made Ouija boards instead
Oh, shit. I could see
because
that.
I had
Yeah.
read well because I had also read that if you make your own Ouija board, it's like way more powerful in connecting than if you have one or you buy one or whatever. If someone actually makes it. And so I did that. I was like, then I just like did lots of research and was reading up on it and doing all that kind of stuff and the what you'd expect. But
Yeah.
then years later, can't remember how much, it wasn't that long after, like probably 5, 6 years later, I used to camp out in the backyard at my mom's in the summer. We had like a little camper and it was like my only way to have my own room. So I
Yeah.
was like, I'd camp out there. And I remember it happened like probably a handful of times. I'd get up in the middle of the night and I was like, I gotta go piss, and I'd go out and it's like the backyard, and in the backyard at my mom's, it's like a little yard, and then it kind of goes up this bank, and then there's like a forest above us, and there's kind of a clearing kind of at the top that you can walk up. There's like stairs on the side, so you can get up there. And then at the very back of the forest is like the back of a subdivision of another area. So I say that just because, technically people could come down that way. So I go pee, and I remember I was like half asleep, and I'm like taking a wizard, and I'm like, I kind of like half awake, and I look up, and I'm like, yeah, what is, and I look, and I'm like, what? There's like this old guy like watching me pee. But it was like, I remember not being like, oh, I'm gonna run back in and hide, because it was like an old guy, but he was like in like an old guy suit, and I was like, huh, okay,
Like the old guy in like Poltergeist. That's all I can think of right now.
yeah, like yeah, exactly. And so I was like, okay, weird. So I just kind of like shake it out and go back to sleep. Then the second time it happened, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's the same guy. So then I'm kind of just like staring, like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is weird, because he's in black and white. So then I'm like, that's a ghost.
Yeah.
I'm still taking a pee, and I'm like, that's a ghost. Good. So that wasn't an old guy.
Right.
That was a ghost. Cool, cool, cool. Then I'm like staring, and I'm like, okay, go back to bed. Kind of freaked out. And then it kept happening, and he never did anything. He never talked to me. It was kind of like he was there, like, So then I had like the third or fourth time I kind of it clicked, and I was like, Mom, do you have this photo? Like, do you have that photo of what would he have been? My great 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 grandpa? And she's like, which one? And I was like, there's a picture of him in a suit standing in front of this car. He was a rum runner during Prohibition. He had this souped up car, and he would go across the American border or whatever. She's like, yeah, and I find the picture. It's him. It's straight up. It's just him. It's like him from that picture, even. Like, it's same suit, everything. Crazy thing is, we still have in when I saw him, he had no hat on. He just had the suit. In the picture, it's that same suit, but he's got this like really nice slick ass fedora, and we have his fedora. Like, we have it like in a hat box. It's in the house. So I was like, okay, interesting. So then that's cool, seeing a ghost, whatever, right? And then it's like your grandpa. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
kind of
Just
cool.
once he's like, what's he working with down? Just keeps trying to see your dick going. You're taking a
Yeah,
piss every night.
he's like, yeah, yeah. He's definitely related to me. Super tiny. But it was like, again, it was, I now like reminiscing on them. I'm always like the same thing that happened with every single one of these is no one ever talks to me. Like, I have no communication. I'm just like witnessing these things, and then it's like, well, what did they say? Did they give you a prophecy? It's like, no, they just looked at my dick.
A prophecy.
Like, fuck. So that one was kind of cool. That was weird. The fact that I could like link it to an actual photo was, a trip. Definitely a trip. And then, so this one, I can't remember for the life of me if seeing my grandpa was after this event, this other one I'm going to tell you, or before. It doesn't really matter, I guess. At my mom's, we've got a house, and you have to go. She's got her hair salon in the ground level of part of the house. And at the time, there was also like the deep freeze was in this little back area. And you had to go down these big stairs and down this other little set of stairs before you could ever turn the light on. So we're always kind of freaked out. And it was like kind of like up on this little ceiling panel. So you had to kind of like, especially when you're a kid, you had to kind of get this light on. And so I'm like, I don't know what I was getting. Mom's like, probably, something, can you go grab something from the deep freeze? I'm like, yeah, okay. And I go downstairs, and I'm like, oh, creepy. I forgot to turn the light on at the top of the stairs. I go down, and I go around the corner. I go down the little like four sets of stairs, and I go, and you turn, and you're looking into the hair salon, and that's where you can turn the light on. And as I turn, there's just this glowing blue human-shaped entity just standing there. And I was already freaked out enough about just the dark.
Yeah.
So I turn the
Jesus
corner, and
Christ.
I just remember being like, okay, what do I do? And then I'm like, and then it bolts at me, and I'm like, fuck this. I turn around as fast as I could. I run up the little set of stairs. I'm trying to turn the corner to go up the big set of stairs. And no joke, I've tested this. If you're trying to run up some stairs and you fall, and I've tested this a bunch of times, there's only about 3 different ways that you fall because it's not like wide steps. So I either fall backwards and I tumble down, which didn't happen. You fall and you kind of like, on your knees and you can kind of, get yourself back up and you go. But you don't fall on your stomach with your legs straight out and slide backwards down the fucking stairs. That's something grabbing your damn foot and dragging you down the stairs, which is what happened.
Jesus
And I
fucking
remember
Christ.
just being like flipping the shit out. And I'm like kicking my feet, like, and I just like kicked like crazy, kind of got my, my feet situated and I just ran. And I remember the best part, which is very strange, is the kitchen's at the top of the stairs. The door is wide open to the kitchen. My mom's standing there, like stirring pasta sauce. Said she didn't hear a thing, nothing. But the
She turned to
funniest
you and
part,
her
like,
eyes are like blue glowing, you know?
yeah, like, I've got you now. You're like, oh. But I remember I climbed up the stairs as fast as I could. And I remember literally I got to the top stair and I like grabbed the door frame and pushed and like slid into the kitchen on my stomach like a fucking seal. And my mom's just standing there like this, like stirring. And she looks at me and she goes, what are you doing? And I was like, what do you mean? What am I doing? I was like, did
Yeah.
you not just hear me like screaming up the stairs or screaming at the bottom of the stairs or screaming at drains? She's like, I didn't hear anything. I was like, oh my, like what? So I don't know
So
what that thing was.
I've
That
been
was
I've been
freaky though.
ghost hunting quite a few times, and I'm just like, I just want to be dragged down a hallway. I just want a scratch down my
No,
face.
you
I just
don't.
want fucking something.
Awful.
So as somebody that's happened to,
Not fun.
it wasn't the experience
Kind of,
that
it's
I
awesome
should
in
be seeking out.
no, it's awesome in hindsight. I can look
Yeah.
back and go, yeah.
God.
But in the moment, no, it's
Yeah.
horrible. You're
Yeah.
just like, I don't know what this is. And also, I don't know what this is. It looks like an energy being, but apparently it has tactile strength and
Yeah.
can grab my foot. That was the part where I was like, I don't
Yeah.
like this. I don't like this at all.
So have you continue? Yes,
Yeah,
please.
okay. I never saw them again. Never saw Blue Vanity. They never visited me. Never
Because
got
you've
my butt
never been
probed.
anywhere near that house again the rest of your life, right? You were just like, I'm
No,
gone. I
that's
know,
where I've
I'm just
lived the
joking,
last
but yeah.
2 years.
Oh
You know how
my
many
God.
times I've been down there again, and I'm just like,
Because it's only a matter of time, dude.
oh
It's
well,
only,
yeah.
yeah.
I was always hoping. I'm like, come on, man. But then I did have a weird connection to that story. So it had to be, it was like 10 years after, let's say. It was around that. And this girl that I went to school with at that time when it happened, she was in town. I was in town. My mom cuts her mom's hair and she's like, oh, so and so's in town. Her mom said to give her a call, like go get coffee or something. I was like, oh shit, yeah, for sure. So we go get coffee, we're hanging out, and we're just like shooting the shit. Somehow it comes full circle to ghost stories. And I hadn't said anything. I just was kind of like, yeah, I love ghost stories are great. I definitely believe in, that, you know, on many different ways. I was like, well, like what happened to you? She's like, I was weirdly enough, we lined it up. It seemed to be the same year, if not like the same week. Like I'll never know, but it seemed to be around the same time. She's like, oh, I was hanging out at my friend's place, and her friend had peyote and really wanted to do peyote, and I'd never really done drugs, and she was like, you gotta do this and blah, blah. Talked me into it, and so I do this, and I'm kind of like, whoa, and and all of a sudden it's like I like walked through this door, and I was like, oh, sick. I'm just like thinking, drug stories, which I have
Yeah, yeah.
more than alien stories. And I'm like, cool, walking through a door, good trip, yep. And she's like, yeah. And then there was these glowing blue human figures. What? What? She's like, yeah. There was these glowing blue human shaped figures. And I was like, did they attack you? She's like, no. I'm like,
Because that's
yes, you
their
did.
MO, yeah.
I was like, okay. I was like, well, what did they do? What happened? She's like, these ones talked to me. And I was like, you fucking bitch. You talk to you. Get out of here. And she's like looking at me because I literally did that. I was like, come on. She's like, what? And I told her the whole story. But like the fact that it was like same town, someone I knew, pretty much around the same time,
Yeah.
same blue, like she described it, it was like to a T. Like same type of blue, same like all of it was like dead on. And yeah, you'd think I would remember. but I can barely remember. I don't think it was anything spectacular, but they were just kind of like asked her about consciousness or something
Yeah.
lame.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't cool. They weren't cool
Oh,
energy beings.
yeah.
No.
Like the key to the universe is love. And you're like, all right, cool,
Yeah,
thanks.
and you're like, come on,
I've heard
get
this a
out of
billion
here.
times.
Yeah,
Do
go
I have to
home.
pay you like 19.99 a month now for your
Yeah, I gotta subscribe.
PDF? Yeah,
Ghost AI.
yeah.
But yeah, but those are yeah, they're
That's
weird.
intense, dude. Like
Yep.
having that, like, I wonder, yeah, like again, we could fanfic the fuck out of it, right? And be like, well, they were trying to get you to tell you this stuff, but like, again, you're
Yeah.
like, so I wonder if we can kind of not connect all these, but like, so if you're somebody that's like open to all these things and like that whole thing where human beings are radio receivers and like we block our minds off because otherwise we go crazy from all the information we receive and all that stuff. Have you ever tried to like push it or anything like that? Because clearly, with so many of these experiences, you have this, right, and you have the ability. Like
Yeah.
me, like I got fucking nothing, right? But like some like
Yeah.
you, where maybe you're like a little open and like you ever tried to like open the window a little bit more or anything like that?
I mean, there was a good time there where I mean, most of my 20s, I just did drugs. So there was a good chunk of time where like I probably could have dived into it a little more, but instead I was just like, cocaine is great,
Yeah, yeah,
yay. But there's been like a couple times where like a friend of mine, she's like a full witch. And like I am, I mean, I don't call myself it, but like she would always be like, well, you're a witch too. The shit you do and the collection like that I have of like really strange books and stuff is nuts. So like I definitely believe in all that. It's a lot of like demonology and like left hand path and black magic and things like that. But I feel like that was because I was open too, right? Like that was kind of my next step into like, well, this stuff's out here. This stuff's been written about. Like some of these books I have are like real old, man, like real old. And talk about spirits and getting in touch with, things and I think that was maybe my next step. I mean, I tried as far as like talking to someone, the only thing I've done recently was I did the classic like string with well, it's like yeah, I what was the one I sometimes you do crystal, but sometimes it's just like a silver weight.
was swinging.
Yeah, and you hold it and you say out loud, to the left is yes, to the right is no,
Yeah,
something like that. And it's essentially the same as a Ouija board, except you can do it on your own. And the like 3 times I've done it, worked, full worked. And it wasn't like, because if you're like this and you're holding a string, like it's gonna move. You can't hold your hand like
yeah.
you can put your elbow down and be like, I got this. This is as still as humanly possible. It's not gonna be. But each time I did it, it wasn't like, oh, it's time to swing into the right. No, it went like vertical
Yeah.
and like stayed there and freaked me out. And then the last time I tried it, I asked questions like the ones I always ask are the same, like, do you know me? And then it's like, are we related? Have we met for real? And so the last time I did it, I was pretty confident it was my grandpa, which is cool. Because also the energy in the room was like very okay. Like I wasn't like, "Ugh," I was just like, okay, cool. Like I feel good. This doesn't feel weird at all. But I don't know. I'm at the point. It's like I guess it's the same with aliens. It's the same with like anything different and weird and not of the norm. It's like I feel like the way the world is now, you're like I mean, it kind of was since like I was a kid, but like you're constantly put down, belittled, or told you're wrong when it comes to like weird shit. And I think it's like we're at a point, especially with like social media and brain rot and doom scrolling, where I question if I'm connected like I was. I feel like I'm so brain rot that I couldn't connect to something.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about it all now, it's like I'm probably gonna go try after this.
Yeah.
I'll go do the string. I'll go do the string theory just to like test. That one always works with me, which is really bizarre. So I'll probably go do that. But like, it's also a case of like, how, what, when, like,
Yep.
what do I do? Like, I have all these books and like I read through those and like a bunch of them have like full on, like, I mean, it sounds cheese as hell, like ancient spells, and
Yeah,
like how to do things. But these are like one of them was from I can't even remember. It's like 800 AD, and it's like from Norway, and it was found in like an old Viking like farmhouse. And one side of it is like a or like a scan of the original page and another translation.
yeah, yeah,
And like the thing I liked about that one is it just like gave a lot of insight into like how they did things. Because like honestly, it's like when we think of Vikings, it's like we think of Vikings. We don't
yeah, yeah.
necessarily think of like, well, how did they farm? How did they, how did husbands treat their wives? How did, like that? So this
What was
book
the
was
day to
amazing for
day?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and this one like really lays it out, but like they did some weird shit, man. But yeah, that my point being in relation to all this is like I'd love to. Like I'd love to like know, okay, here's a list. Here's the top 5. These work. You can do this. It will give you insight or it will connect you or it'll do something. But like we don't have that. We kind of like shoot the shit and hope for the best. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can really answer why
yeah.
I
I
haven't more, but
I think it's
maybe I will
hard,
now.
especially now with like you're saying with like fucking like social media and all that stuff. Like you're never bored anymore, and being bored is when like I've had some of my best ideas just like in the shower, but like now I like have a fucking podcast going in the shower or like put
Yeah.
music on or something
Yeah.
like that. But like so when you have that downtime and when you can actually think about things, like your conscious like opens up. It's like not like not in a fucking like metaphysical way, but like just in like inside your brain, you can be like, okay, I can think deeply about something else. But like we're so stuck at surface level right now, where like getting there, it's gonna take work, and you're like, I got a job.
Yep.
I want to come home. I want to just watch a show. I want to smoke weed. I just want to sit here and do nothing, for like I'm tired, So
Yep. 100%.
it's so hard to just like dedicate your lives. And then if you dedicate your lives, then you end up being one of those people that lives in a van trying to sell you crystals like at like a Ren fair. And I'm like, all
100%.
right, cool. But so
Yep.
I get it. Yeah, trying to push. I always just like to be like, hey, why don't you like nudge it a little bit, just out of my own kind of like jealousy of that shit. But again, if I had some experience, I'd be like, I don't know if I'd be able to do it either, kind of deal. So like I said, I
Yeah.
always just be like, hey, maybe you want to try it, kind of deal, just like those same people that like
Uh,
I can't even draw a stick figure. I'm like, fuck you, like you could if you
You're like,
tried,
just jump
yeah,
in. Yeah.
yeah.
Like at some point it'll work. Yeah. I don't know. I might, who knows? Like it's spirits and the dead and all like that side more than aliens. Like aliens to me is this strange level of like obviousness. Like that's
Hmm.
kind of how I see it. I'm just like, yeah, aliens. What?
It
Like,
seems pretty
whoa,
accessible,
UFOs.
yeah.
Like, of course there's UFO. Like this, I mean, and there's enough info that's come out where they're like, well, that's what, the alien movies that got made, all the alien craze, all that shit, like that was to condition us so that when aliens happen, we're doing exactly like they hoped. We're all just like, yeah, cool. Like until like honestly, it's like I don't know how many fucking TikToks and reels I've seen of people where they literally say exactly what I think, where it's like, until I see an alien standing in front of me, saying hi, conversing. Yeah, I know. Well,
Yeah, your
yeah, but
ears are
see, is
like,
saying hi. Mine
yeah,
just stood behind me like a
yeah,
dickhead. But like until it's like there and something can come of it, I don't give a shit.
yeah. Like I would see
Whereas,
that comment of like, do I still have to pay my rent? And you're like, yeah, you're like,
yeah,
okay, well, then I don't give a fuck.
yeah, exactly. Like, do I
Or
still have
like,
to like live through the torment of this world we've like destroyed,
yeah,
and we're all just trying to like literally survive in? Like alien, are you here to help me? Like, are you gonna like give us free energy so we can at least like not pay some of our bills?
hmm,
No? Okay, well,
no, no,
go home.
yeah.
Like, yeah,
You just want
like,
to suck adrenochrome out of my pineal gland? Cool.
exactly. Like,
Yeah.
all right. But like the spirit side of things, I think I connect with that a lot more because like there's more possibility to that in my mind. Like, if there's so much written and there's so much like throughout, like since forever. like every culture, every group of people, has a witch or a shaman, a warlock, a medicine man, a this, a that, and they all have connections to the dead. Some Incas, Mayans, Egyptians, I mean, even the Haida and like the natives of like North America, like they had some crazy stuff when it came to the dead, when it came to like you dying, when it came to, where you went, what they thought, like way more, like they had way more going on than what we do now. Now we're all like, am I in their will? Do I get money? Where do we bury them? Let's move on. But like, the rest of time, there was like, I mean, I say evidence, it's not evidence. Holy shit. Sorry, there's a giant bird. I don't even know what that bird was. There's a giant bird that just flew outside my window, like 6 foot wingspan. An alien. But yeah,
And its
so
fucking eyes.
oh shit, it didn't talk to me either though.
Yeah.
See,
Strike two.
but yeah, the spirit side though, yeah, I
It
like
seems more
something where it's like
accessible.
it's everywhere. Yeah, it's accessible. Oh, I mean, just because there's so much, so it's like you could look at it from a million points of view. And like in that sense, yeah, like super accessible because you can just read, you could like search hashtag afterlife.
Yeah,
You're gonna find
yeah.
someone saying something where you're like, oh, interesting, and you go from there. But I just feel like I feel like there's more to it. Aliens, it's like, oh, they're from somewhere else. That's all we know. Like we have all these like stories and stuff where it's like the military has this, the military has that, but we don't have like there's not much else. Whereas like with spirits in the afterlife, ghosts and demons, opening portals, summoning, like there's a lot and there's a lot everywhere by a lot of people from the start of time.
Yeah,
So there's got to be a microcosm of real to
yeah.
that. I mean, I hope.
Even and it's like it's not the messenger, it's a message, right? So I remember seeing a clip from Tucker Carlson's show, right? And I'm like, all right, whatever. But he's obviously like he's got connections way past than I do, right? And he's like I've been read into some of this alien stuff, and he's like it keeps me up at night, and I won't talk to my wife about it. And you're like, that's fucking weird. Like, why aren't you talking? And then there was another
Yeah.
clip later that he like, like I was like, I talked to Vicky about fucking everything. And like, oh, this fucking alien, stabbed me in the face. Like, but but no, like so there's another clip where he's just like, there's a spiritual component to all this, and this has been going all throughout time. And he goes, and it's much more about like angels and demons. But of course, he's got like the Christian lens painted on the whole thing.
Yeah.
So with
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
if you have like the aliens where like it's possible, like it's might be easier to travel interdimensionally than like the vast distances of space. Maybe I don't fucking know, right?
No. Yeah.
But like, and then overlaying the kind of like spiritual aspect to it too. I think there's this one. It's hard for me. It's a hard leap for me because I think like the aliens and the UFO stuff is a physical thing, and then jumping into the metaphysical thing. I was like, all right, how about we get like legit evidence? Let me see an alien body or something first, and then let's go over to this like metaphysical part of it. So I think they're kind of linked, but I'm not there yet. I just obviously I don't know, but
Yeah. There's some. I'm with you. Yeah, there's something like if we were to like find out and there was like evidence and fact where it's like, oh, a lot of these things that people saw as ghosts or afterlife or this or that was actually like, for lack of a better term, breaking out of the matrix. I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I get it. Like I thought maybe, like yeah, yeah, that could be it. But then there's like, I don't know, man. Eh, I guess, like I said, I guess the spirits and afterlife stuff I just connect to so much more. I think just because there's so many stories and they're all the same but so different,
yeah.
and there's like infinite. Like you can read history, you can read stuff that was like written like hundreds of years ago, and you can talk to a guy like down the street at the coffee shop who has an experience. Whereas like aliens, it's kind of the same 6 or 7 stories,
Yeah, yeah,
right? I mean, the only thing I have that was a real trip, and I'm like trying to find it again because like this is a good time. When it comes to like the afterlife, was I did a big hit of DMT, and which for people that don't know is literally the chemical that is made in your brain when you die. And the first stage, which everyone that has done DMT said happens, and it does. Like the couple friends I did when they did their hits too. You basically it's the same as when someone dies and comes back. You go towards the light. It's like a tunnel. It's light. It's like a weird whistling, like no sound, like, and it's like almost this weird kaleidoscope, and then it's like, and you're somewhere else. Like you're straight up transported. Like it was almost like in Interstellar when he goes in the black hole.
Yeah.
It was like that was like way too accurate. When I watched that, I was like, oh shit. But it was crazy because I did that like I want to say like almost 10 years ago now, and I remember it clearer than most of my memories that actually and then I just like we lost our connection, never could I can't find DMT anymore. But like the amount of stories I've read about DMT and doing it like on a semi-regular basis and like where people have kind of seen themselves and like some people saying it's like it is like a weird almost glitch in the matrix, like it's like an exit for like a second, like that's kind of why I want to do it more, because it's like it seems to be the only thing that to me at least feels like some level of an answer, you know, or at
Yeah.
least I don't know, it's something. It was a trip
Well,
though. It was,
have you read
whew,
any of the Terrence McKenna books or
years ago.
yeah, but like I
Yeah.
remember just like them in the jungle and talking about it like kind of like cracking open reality kind of deal. And I was straight edge until I was 30
Oh yeah.
and yeah, and I read a book. It was called Sex, Drugs, Einstein and Elves by Clifford Pickover. He's a physicist and it was all about DMT, psychedelic experiences and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, fuck, I want to do this, right? But I was like, how about I start with a little bit of weed first before I
Yeah.
go that
A
right?
good
And then,
start.
yeah, years later, friends like they came over to my house and they were just like, "Dude, we've been waiting for you. We got some DMT," and I was like, "I'm not ready. I'm not ready." And
Oh
they
no.
and they say if you, because like you look up trip reports because you're fucking terrified, right? If they say that if you say you're not ready, then like don't do it because you're not ready, right? And I was
Yeah,
like, okay,
no, don't. Yeah,
let me just
100%.
so
That was the right.
yeah. So I still, and then they did it and they had a blast, and I was like, God damn it. But still, whatever. So at some point, I'd like to do that. But like all those things are like, it's, it does sound like it's kind of peeling back a veil, like a classic thing. But did you ever
Yeah.
see that new thing where, fuck, I can't remember his name. But anyway, it doesn't matter. He's coming out with a documentary soon, but it was all over TikTok where he's got the lasers and he's looking into the lasers
Oh
on
yeah.
DMT.
Where you can see the coat.
Yeah. And I was like, this is
Yeah.
pretty intense. And like, even in the trailer
Yeah.
for it, he's just like, you always want to know if you live in the Matrix. And he goes, I know. And we do. And I was like, all right, dude, that's
Yeah.
intense right there. So I'd like
Yeah.
to see that when it
Yeah,
comes
when I
out.
first saw clips of that and he says that, I was just like, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I had a feeling, but like seeing that and like I mean, yeah, I want to see the documentary. I want to see like a little more evidence,
Yeah. Well,
because
apparently
like
he's
as
got like,
artists,
oh, go
oh, I was
ahead.
just
Sorry.
gonna say, like as artists, like when I looked at that, I don't know about you, but like yeah, that was a trip. Like they get it on video where like you can kind of see it. But like we know, we've seen it, like we've looked up enough things. We know
Yeah.
like, symbols within things in everything. Like, you look at like my favorite still is that like green or purple cauliflower
The
goes
Mandelbrot
crazy.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. That like
right?
you just
Or
keep going
like
down and down. Yeah.
yeah, like it's such a trip, but it's like sitting there, you can like hold, you can eat it. Like you look at things like the shape of an eye and like things in space or things in the world that, have those same things. So like in that sense, when I looked at it, I'm like, you know what, to be fair, like that could, yeah, you know what, he could have found a crack. That
Yeah.
could totally be the code of the Matrix, not saying no, but at the
Of
same time, I
course.
was
Yeah.
like, it could just be a refraction of something on something on
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, there's a lot of grift in
Still
the space.
interesting.
That's why I was just like maybe, but then we said he's got like 20 people all separately doing DMT and doing it and like recording their findings, and I was like, all right, now we're getting somewhere because like
Yeah.
that book, Sex, Drugs, Einstein, and Elves was
Oh yeah.
I remember them saying like if you did, I don't remember if they said DMT or ayahuasca. I know they're like slightly different.
Yeah.
But like, I think probably ayahuasca. But you're like, oh yeah, if me and you were doing ayahuasca right next to each other, you look down, and if I saw a golden puddle, you would see a golden puddle too. And he's like, that needs to be explored, because if there is these two people seeing the same thing, it's not just a hallucination. You're like, you're tapping into another realm, which like, why can't we look into this? And I think with even
Yeah.
fucking like ghosts and stuff like that, like I think it was like, we're all this big like onion slice of like all these different realms, and like it's a different way to like cross in back and forth. I just think maybe people seeing ghosts might be this like, with like the worlds are kind of like slowly like they're like passing back and forth, and you're like, you see like an echo of somebody or something like that. So I always like thought like, and then it's not just spirits, there's like consciousness. So there's a whole bunch of shit we don't know, whole bunch of
Oh
shit that
yeah.
we should explore, and it's like that's why I like doing this stuff, because I just like talk to people's
Oh
experiences with
yeah.
it, and like
It's
being
so
like,
rad to hear other sides of it, and I definitely agree. Yeah, I think like the ghost thing is I've definitely always thought like once I read bits and pieces here and there and kind of put together of the whole like, oh, it's on a different plane, but like they're kind of overlapping, and at certain times you can like see into it, or if you're
like ley lines and shit. Yeah,
yeah, or like if you're just like the type where it's like you are living in a certain frequency that just like
yeah,
even just in the sense of like I know people where it's like no matter who they talk to, it's like the second they're around other people, those other people are like comforted and
oh
they
yeah,
feel good and they're like, oh yeah, it's like I feel like there's evidence without evidence of things like that where it's like it to be true even though it's not something you can really prove. And so like if that kind of stuff, I look at that kind of thing and then I look at like a ghost or like the idea of like, us being on just a different plane where we can tune into it. And I'm just like, yeah, like if I believe in these things that just seem like so real, like that guy's got good energy. Well, it's not too much of a hop, skip, and a jump over to we can see into a ghost realm.
and I think I feel that a little bit, especially in the tattoo room. Like, half believe in a lot of this stuff, right? I'm like, maybe, right?
Yeah,
But like,
yeah,
when
yeah.
somebody's having a hard time, when I'm 3-4 hours deep in the tattooing, like, you can feel that like coming off them like in waves, and it makes
Oh, for sure.
me anxious, makes me uncomfortable. I'm like, all right, how about we take a break for a few, and like just go kind of like chill out for a little bit, kind of deal. And I was like, why does this like? Why do I take it on? And like I'm like, hey, I would rather us like, if you're having a hard time, let's just reschedule for the rest of it, rather than like make you hammer through something and you like, having a bad
Yeah,
experience. So like, just feeling that, I'm like, okay, if I'm just getting the little tiniest bit of this stuff, why not have it be a big plume of fucking like everything, you know what I mean? So I think we'll never know until we're fucking dead.
yeah, exactly.
even then,
Uh,
even then, let's say
yeah,
you die and you're
it's
like,
like who
cool,
knows at that
now
point.
oh, there's one woman who was she knew her there's a woman who knew her past lives. She committed suicide, and she was like, as she was falling down to the bed, she's like, oh fuck, I didn't do this right, I'm gonna like be like really bad, right? And then she like gets up and she's like, oh shit, I'm a ghost. So she remembers living out like, she's like, time was weird, so she's like, I lived a long time as a ghost. And I was like, that's fucking crazy. She's like, it sucks because you could only see like in front of your face and that's it. And I was like, oh,
Weird.
that's a shitty existence. But I forget how she
Yeah,
said she got out of it. But like, I think like her daughter like helped pull her through. Whatever. I don't remember exactly what it was. But yeah, little side
wild.
note on that stuff.
I mean, that's the thing. I kind of hope it's something. But like, I remember being young and like realizing death was
Yeah.
a inevitable reality. And of course, like you have full existential crisis and meltdown. And for like years, 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 it was always like the scariest thing in the world. Like, oh my God, I won't exist at some point. But then I like actually thought about it at one point and was just like, I don't know. I'm not quite as scared about that anymore, just for the reality that like there's no real evidence of nothing, and there's a lot of strange evidence or stories or ancient cultures writing stuff down that kind of
Yeah.
shows something. So it's like I'm not really scared because it's like I've seen so much stuff where it's like it's
Yeah.
something happens. So I'm like, cool, maybe it is really like just the next step. Maybe it's a whole nother huge, different type of reality, different type of living, different type of being, but we experience it, right? Maybe reincarnation's real. And for like that little bit, you're like,
Yeah.
this is me, but I'm in that, and then it kind of resets. Just enough that you're not like, I'm dead,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I
Like,
hope.
who knows, man?
Yeah. I hope there's a little something. I think maybe this is why I like this stuff so much, because I lost my parents like 2000, 2004.
Oh shit.
Thank you. But so around like 2014, 15, I started having panic attacks. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And super long story short, went to therapy and stuff, and I found out I was having health anxiety, because after, like, because when you're doing freelance, you're just constantly like survival mode kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
And so when I started tattooing, I was like, okay, I can like chill out, and like, okay, I don't have to worry about getting gas money or anything like that, so I can chill out.
Mm-hmm.
And then my body's like, what else can we bother you with? And he was like, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
dude, you're terrified of the same thing happening to you that happened to your parents. So I think, like, shit. So I read this book called Dying Wise. I don't remember the author. I didn't read all of it because it was intense at the time. But a lot of it was about like how the West treats death, and how we're like, my dad died. It was, oh, he's dead there. I see him on the ground, and all of a sudden he's gone. And I was like, okay, he's just gone. I don't know what's going on with him or
Yeah.
anything like that.
And that's it.
And like other cultures will help do like rituals and have them like there in the house. And I was like, I don't know if I want anything like that. But the other part of the book was more about quality of life rather than quantity of life. And us in the West, we focus so much on eking out the like as many minutes as we can rather than focusing on the quality. And I was like, fuck, this is pretty intense. Like, I was like, okay, I'll see what I can do,
Yeah.
kind of deal.
Yeah, very true. I mean, as artists too, it's like I've had my moments where I'm like, live the best life you can. But then as an artist and like having like nothing but ideas that you want to explore, and like some of these creative ideas taking your whole life,
Yeah.
you know, I feel like me compared to someone who's like, oh, I want to live forever for like no real reason. Maybe some like, rich trillionaire who's just like, I can't die. I have $1 trillion to spend. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And then me, it's like the only reason I want to live forever is because I really like doing art, and it would be cool to see what ideas I have, in 500 years when my reality around me is completely different than now. So it's like if someone was to be like, like Chappie, like that movie Chappie, where it's like we can put your full subconscious, your spirit, your everything into this robot, and we can basically, when that robot's like, getting run down, we can just put you in the next advanced one. I'd do it. Like, not, I wouldn't even blink. I'd be like, put me in
But
a
then it's
robot.
also like it's a copy of your and then you get into that whole thing. You're like, okay,
Yeah,
it's a
I don't
copy of your
care.
content. Is it real? Like whatever, right?
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally real. Yeah, it's good. I'm good. I'm a robot. Woo! I mean, as long as I have my memories
Yeah.
and I feel like, oh, this is me. Yeah, cool. Like, yeah, I'm in a different body. That would be a fucking trip.
Yeah.
Probably freak the shit out for a hot minute. But, I feel like as long as I had my memories and I had that feeling of like, this is me, even if it was a copy, as long as there was no other copy,
At some point. There's
there
also
could be.
yeah.
That's like
And
the Mickey 17 movie. That's like
yeah.
that vibe.
I didn't get to go see that yet. I wanted to.
I
Is
haven't
it
seen it
good?
yet either.
Okay.
I haven't seen it. It's out, but it's not at the theater that's by my house. And the theater that's at my house has like full reclining, like leather couches. Nice.
Yeah, I should hit that.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't want to go to another theater. So I gotta just wait for it to come out, I guess.
Well,
Yeah.
all right, dude. Well,
Well,
hey,
hopefully we
it
both
was
see some aliens.
fingers crossed. I got my backyard, and I got I got a telescope, but I didn't set it up. Since I
Oh,
moved
what?
here.
You gotta set that up.
But hey, dude, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I appreciate it. This was fucking awesome.
Oh, it's an alien.
Oh shit! But like, give you a shot. Like, I don't know if you got anything like pages you want to plug or anything like that. I'll put them all at the end of the podcast thing too. If you want to let
I
people know
guess.
how to find you.
I mean, I'm gonna put out music again. And I mean,
Yeah.
for like 10 years of making that music, I said it wasn't me. It's me.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I'm
Yeah.
tired of hiding that. It's me. It's just me doing a voice that's creepy.
Yeah. It's fucking cool. I
Literally
like.
just me writing a killing and doing this voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And other than that, I mean, I put stuff out once in a while. Grimjob69 on Instagram. I don't really do much of my own stuff. I have stuff on like Society 6 and things. I put stuff up randomly and then don't really post about it. And then I am now basically the lead main designer and concept guy at a cool shoe, toy, and clothing brand called Belairs. And it's really cool. We do for anyone our generation or people getting into our generation of cool stuff
Oh,
from
the
Samurai
cycle
Pizza
continues.
Cats
Yeah.
to Pee-wee's Playhouse to Sectars to Biker Mice from Mars to Toxic Avenger.
Yeah.
We're doing
Nice.
toys, shoes, and clothes on all of it. And so get your nostalgia fix or learn about it, if you haven't yet. And yeah, fun as hell, man.
All right, dude. Well, thanks for coming on. I'm gonna hit stop on this. Thanks for being here, dude. We'll have to do it again.